Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Super excited to have you here today. Looks like some folks are still kind of filing in for this session. So to start out, I just want to know who has started their holiday promotions yet. I'm going to share a poll in the chat. Go ahead and vote. Let us know. Awesome. So in the meantime, while folks are voting, let's introduce everyone here. So we have this awesome panel today. We have up here, we've got Jason, who is the president of Foundy. Next, we have Tim, and he is going to be sharing a lot of information with us today about advertising, but he is our head of advertising. And then we have Taylor as well, director of revenue. And Brandy is our music industry relations manager. So this is the full Foundy team. You're going to get advice from everyone today. Really stoked about it.
Happy to be here. Thank you for doing this, Rebecca.
Yeah. Thank you. Mark says he's missing the old school Hobbs haircuts.
This all happened during Pandy, and then I haven't changed it. So I think this is it for a while. We'll see.
Keeping the style. It'll be the new school Hobbs haircut. The old school Hobbs haircut. Cool. So I'm going to be sharing another thing in the chat here. This is our holiday advertising guide and fact sheet. Please feel free to download it. It is just a bunch of info, summary of what we're talking about today, and just some checklists of things you can do with Foundy. I will be moderating. I'll be asking all of these folks some questions. If you have questions, please feel free to throw them out in the chat. I'll mark them, and we'll mark them as answered as we're going along. All right, everyone. First and foremost, how does ad performance change on the holidays? Why even plan for your holiday promotions at all? What do we see around this time? Tim, I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I think for a lot of you who are advertisers, there's people often talk about how costs for advertising really go up around the holidays. This is, I think, talked about by a lot of the industry, but, again, the question is how these costs change and why they change. So, I'm just going to go into some of the trends that we have seen and how the data sort of reflects these trends. Historically, CPMs or our cost per 1,000 impressions are the highest following Thanksgiving, with the week leading all the way till the week leading up to Christmas. We generally see spikes on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Which should be no surprise. Advertisers are, this is when advertisers are really sort of, kicking up the amount of ads that they're deploying. Spikes on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, as well as the week leading up to Christmas. And, specifically, we see CPMs on paid social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. CPMs on these paid social platforms spike up to about 45% higher than other periods from Black Friday to the end of the year. This isn't just sort of this isn't just with CPMs as well. We see a spike in our cost per clicks as well. In December, there's just the month of December, CPCs can spike up to about 39% higher than average. So, compared to the rest of the year and compared to the previous period, there's quite a significant jump in CPMs and CPCs and just general advertising costs, specifically on paid social platforms. When we're taking into account, different types of ad setups, ads that are set up for awareness or just for engagements, we see CPC costs spike up to, even up to 140%, compared to the rest of the year. So quite a significant spike.
And that's not just a factor, right, Tim, of the fact that the CPM goes up. It's also because of a lot of there's just so many people advertising. So if people get a little exhausted, and it's hard to break through, especially on social channels, right?
Yeah. And there's a couple of reasons why we see this huge spike. The first is that, there's a fixed audience pool, right? There advertisers are trying to reach the same people, but it's more advertisers deploying, more creative, more ads during this time. So costs increase because of that. It's more demand for the same supply of available ad units. And we also see this huge spike, specifically on paid social platforms, because a lot of advertisers learn how to run paid social first. I think it's become a default for a lot of advertisers, and so paid social, Facebook, Instagram specifically, we see huge spikes there in pricing.
Absolutely. So I'm hearing that it is great time to have this webinar and start planning all of these promotions. I'm taking a look at our poll here. It looks like most people haven't started yet. So this is a great time to start planning. Taylor, do you have anything to add on what contributes to the trends? Anything that you've noticed working?
Well, as Tim mentioned, I mean, I think in general, you start to see just advertisers vying for spend from consumers. So naturally, people have holiday campaigns planned, and people know, that consumer spending goes up around the holidays traditionally. So naturally, when there's more people going into that mix, you're going to see a higher rate of competition, which ends up driving costs up. So trying to get ahead of that, but also really creating a bit more of a diverse strategy is really important, I think, in this time frame, to not strictly or solely be on social, but maybe using that as a part of the plan or part of the overall strategy, and really diversifying as well. And of course, I mean, I think, Tim, you're going to talk a little bit about it, but content is also important, and trying to do something that maybe, stands out from what you've done throughout the rest of the year. And just, again, going back to strategy and really thinking through what that promo or holiday campaign is going to be kind of centered around is important.
Awesome. So what challenge does this pose for the music industry? I know we're probably, a lot of the times when we're talking about these trends, we're talking about a lot of retail, which of course goes up around the holidays. But specific to the music industry, what are things that we should consider when we're talking about our holiday promo plans?
Yeah, so I think the first thing, and this applies to, I guess, all sectors, not just the music industry, but as our ROI goes down, when ad costs go up, we're spending the same amount of money to reach a smaller pool, a smaller audience, and costs are more expensive. So we just don't get that same bang for our buck around the holidays. And especially with this being the case on paid social specifically, like Taylor was saying, diversifying from spend on paid social alone can really help with your ad strategy. Diversifying from only running ads on Facebook and Instagram. I know, I was guilty of this for a long time as an advertiser, but just, when you have any budget, just, hey, let's go straight to Facebook and Instagram. It's the easiest thing, or what I perceive to be the easiest thing that I know how to do. But there's other ad platforms out there, Foundy being one of them, where it's an opportunity for us to advertise without the same sort of premiums that we see on Facebook and Instagram and these paid social platforms. So really sort of diversifying your ad plans and your ad strategies can help here.
Yeah, and from my experience, I mean, one of the bigger challenges for music compared to other industries is we just generally don't get the same size budget, and these larger companies, they have dedicated Facebook media buyers. They don't have dedicated Foundy media buyers. They don't have a lot of programmatic media buyers on staff. And so they're really, they're sort of saturating these channels that, we had been used to for quite a while. And they jack up the prices. And we just don't have a massive budget to compete with them, I think, especially on social. But generally speaking, we just have smaller budgets, so we have to be a little more pointed in how we reach fans of music. Not just everybody in the world, not 2 billion people, just fans of music.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Brandy, I want to ask you, as our resident Foundy platform expert, you assist with a lot of Foundy ads. So when we're talking about diversifying our ad spend, going to different places, what should we look out for? What's a successful ad run?
So as far as Foundy goes, I would say a successful ad run, what we're going to want to be looking at is the impressions, right? So how often are we being able to put your ad in front of as many people as we possibly can, so that they're going to be able to recall exactly what they saw and give it a little bit more room and space in their mind to remember. We're generally going to want to look at CPMs when it comes down to these premium domain campaigns. And when it comes to max click campaigns, we're going to look at the CPC. So basically, on average, our CPMs all of last year were just about around $3. And sometimes when you look at these other channels, it's more like a $17 CPM or $18 CPM. So if you're trying to kind of mix in what you're doing and how you're advertising for your holiday promotions, I would say looking to Foundy is definitely a great way to get more bang for your buck.
Awesome. What's a good way to compare your social spend with your Foundy spend? It's a very different audience. You're going to different places. What would I do as a user to know how my ad is going?
Yeah, so Foundy actually just in this last year came out with a tool. It's the Foundy calculator. So what you'll do is we can put the link down in our chat, I'm sure, just for you guys to have. But what you'll do is you'll go in and you'll put in all of your kind of CPMs, your budget entirely, the date that it's running for, and we'll actually propagate out your comparison from Foundy ads all the way through Instagram, Facebook, and I do believe Google AdWords as well. And it's all based off benchmarks that were taken from Rebecca. What were the benchmarks that they pulled for the Foundy calculator?
Yeah, so they're from other agencies. So we're using places like AdStage to pull in that information. So once we get updated benchmarks, we're updating the calculator as much as we can.
Absolutely, it's a really, really powerful tool.
Awesome.
Yeah, one thing to add in too, talking about the challenges from a music industry perspective, I think about this when I see ads coming through, whether it's on a domain or a website, a news site, or whatever it is I'm on, or on social media platforms. And the thing I think about specifically for the challenge for music is sometimes what that content is and what it's contextually placed next to on the screen. When Brandy's mentioning brand recall, I think what's important to also consider is where are people seeing your ad and what is happening around that ad. And that's where sometimes with social media, you can get caught up in being in a mix of conversation between, grandma sharing her recipe above the post and, some political banter in the post below your ad that's running in the feed. So I think that's where, in differentiating that strategy a little bit specifically around holiday campaigns, can be really useful, especially, Brandy, you're mentioning the premium domains.
Yeah.
Using the Foundy platform, you can literally, deliver an ad on rollingstone.com or your Pitchfork magazines. And sometimes that brand recall is going to go a little bit further there because people are kind of subliminally maybe placing your brand in the context of music, whereas on social media, they may not.
They're already tuned in.
By the way, I want to say, Taylor, I like that you called it banter as opposed to just straight up families arguing. Politics. I literally don't use Facebook. I cannot. I don't think every now and then I think I'll post something so people know that I'm still around. They're not like on Instagram or calling me. But yeah, I mean, it's become so incendiary. It's like, I cannot imagine people really wanting to have that sort of brand proximity to, these really incendiary conversations that are just, it's sort of what these are now. They're like, octagon for people to go in and banter it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to bring it back to the music industry specifically, in January we always have a lot of tour announces. It seems like especially if artists are also recording albums towards the end of a calendar year, a lot of times they'll look to January to I guess deploy all of the messaging. January as a sort of like big splash moment, whether it's to announce a tour because they haven't been touring because of COVID or whatever it is, or new music. And just with that consideration in mind, although ad costs are higher in December, advertisers need to be putting out ads in December to reactivate their audiences, to start building those remarketing audiences, to just prime their fan base for something larger coming in January. So, with that all in mind, again, we want to reach our target audience and do it efficiently and effectively in December. And with that, those sort of awareness ads on Foundy, these sort of prospecting ads are really useful here.
I just one other thing about or maybe 14 other things about the music industry. So ultimately, we're all competing for a very finite budget around Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Whether you're buying like a Home Depot AC heater combo or whatever else, or you're doing all your holiday shopping at that point. So it is important for us to make sure we're marketing. For a lot of people, that means they've spent all this time building out their email, base, and they're going to send off a massive, Black Friday offer or Cyber Monday offer or something like that coming up. And then, of course, there's also advertising. There's all sorts of things that can be done. But we are really competing for, even just legitimately just buying those utilities on Black Friday. Like I'm going for a heater AC combo. That's my thing. I'm probably going to do some holiday shopping around that time too, especially because I'm not going to see everyone, this holiday season. I'll be having things shipped off to them. And other things to consider are that is based on production time for vinyls, for merchandise, for re-upping merchandise and stuff like that. I mean, you really have to be selling this stuff early. Otherwise, it's not going to make it to the people for whatever sort of holiday they're celebrating and opening packages that morning. And so it really is important, even though it gets expensive. We're out there. We have to vie for that same finite budget that people have for their own utilities around the house, or utilities like AC heater combo. We're not vying for heating or electricity money, but that or the actual holiday shopping. So timing is of the essence. Making sure you stand out is of the essence, and doing this also at the same time while promoting potentially holiday music is another factor to consider. You might be trying to sell vinyls so that they end up, for some folks on Christmas morning or something. But you also might be trying to get people to listen to your music on Spotify or, follow your Spotify holiday playlist or something like that. And you have to have the budget for all of it. And you have to be able to stand out through the noise all at the same time everyone else is doing the exact same thing.
Absolutely. I think that brings us to a good point where we can maybe even back up a little bit. So why should I be advertising around the holidays if I don't have a holiday release or I don't have a tour coming up? I'm not prepping anyone for anything. What kind of consumer behavior should I be on the lookout for? What should I be activating?
Would you say if you have nothing going on?
So let's say I don't have a holiday album coming out. I don't have a tour I want to announce in January, but I do want to take advantage of the folks that are out there looking for holiday gifts. What should I be preparing my campaign around, I suppose?
So assuming you have music release or merchandise already for sale, I would certainly be working on that. It doesn't have to be something new. I mean, a lot of people will do sort of re-ups around this time frame. There was a time where iTunes gift cards were like the most purchases that took place all year long took place between November and December, and then the most redemptions took place in early January. And so back in the day, and I don't know if there's an equivalent that people care about as much these days, maybe buying folks Spotify subscriptions or Apple subscriptions or something. But yeah, there was absolutely a time where you wanted to be present, because when grandma gave you that iTunes gift card or gave somebody the iTunes gift card, you wanted to be the band that was redeemed on, because that's how you generate the revenues. I don't know. I mean, Taylor or Tim, I feel like you guys have been working on stuff around this time of year the last couple of years pretty quite a bit. Love to know.
Yeah. Jason, I think you touched on this earlier, but playlist streaming, or just streaming via playlist discovery, is extremely powerful in December.
Yeah.
I think this is just due to listener streaming habits. People are at home, cooking, spending time with the family, going out to shop. Spotify playlist or just playlists on any DSPs are kind of just on repeat in the background. So, there's really this big uptick in streaming via playlists in December specifically. And with these DSPs, with these ad platforms, we need to run paid, in December and before to maximize our chance of getting on these playlists. With how the playlists are essentially populated, we need to be demonstrating to the DSPs like Spotify, like Apple Music, that people are engaging and that people are interested in this music to essentially encourage them to get our music and then add them to these playlists. And so, for our best shot at landing these playlist editions, we need to be spending.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, even in addition to the spend, if you're, regardless of whether you're an independent artist or you're a label manager, you can, I think that now's an opportunity to create playlists. Whether if you're a label, maybe you have artists that do have some holiday music, so you put a more of a organizational centric playlist together that features those artists. Or if you're just an independent artist, put one of your favorite holiday tunes together on a playlist, and then start marketing that to your fans and the people that pay attention to you. And if you can mix, if you don't have a holiday tune, maybe you don't want to mix one of your general songs into that playlist, but just finding ways to be to kind of keep that brand in front of folks, even if you don't necessarily have a holiday related campaign. I've seen, I know this might be a good time to kind of bring this up, that the Record Store Day is doing like a Black Friday Record Store Day campaign.
Right.
And I think all of their stuff is specific to artists that maybe they're working with. But if you're not one of those artists, you could very easily do your own campaign with your, product that you already have earlier this year, and maybe partner with your local or regional record stores, or figure out a way to just, again, stand out a little bit from just the general media or general promo, and say, go to such and such record store to buy my album and support local, shop local on that small business Saturday instead of Friday or Monday. So again, I think just being creative on ways to find reasons to advertise or to just talk about the holidays. While it might be a lull for you, it's still a great opportunity, because as Tim mentioned earlier, people are aware and paying more attention to what's going on in their feeds from a holiday or a purchasing standpoint because of the time of the year.
Yeah. And I would say, looking at the list of people in attendance right now, I'd say a lot of the people here are probably working on some sort of Record Store Day promotion of some sort as well. And certainly a lot of people here also, they have artists with either holiday albums or some kind of holiday song or something like that, whether it's being released this year or was released 10 years ago. And I think some of the people here would know as well, but I think we're saying there's a lot of priority that goes into holiday music around November, December. And so sometimes you can say, like, hey, Google, I shouldn't say that too loud. My thing's it's gonna pop up, but you can ask it to play something. And a lot of times it'll prioritize the holiday music and not like the most popular album, but it'll prioritize the holiday music just because we're in a holiday season. And what happens is people turn these on and they just keep streaming. They stream in the background at holiday parties, stream in the background while people are cooking, baking, wrapping presents, opening presents, all of the above. And the same thing happens in department stores and any sort of like retail shop and stuff like that. And people are back to shopping in person as well. And the streaming for holiday music goes through the roof. I know some individual artists that make the most money on streaming in November and December, basically like a month and a half, basically, where it crushes the previous 10 and a half months of the year. Because they made one holiday album, basically.
It's the Mariah Carey effect.
Absolutely, I love that. So awesome. I think we have a lot of great info on what consumers are doing and great info on how to reach people in general. But what's the best way to prime your audience? How do you reach the people that are already aware of you so you can activate them to go buy on Record Store Day, for example?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. I mean, I see Shirley Luis's question about, are you using IG or TikTok to promote? And I think you use all channels, of course, but one of the most kind of in important components of that is how are you, what are you using to document, or not necessarily document, but to capture this data from your audience, the people that do engage with you or the people that follow you or that have engaged in some form, and how do you make sure that any new content that you're putting out is getting back in front of those folks? And that's where building out your remarketing audiences is, never been more important. And, with the Foundy platform, there's that ability. That's really what a lot of it is built around, is for audience building for artists and musicians and creators. So holiday time is going to be a perfect opportunity to use that audience that you've been creating throughout the year, run remarketing campaigns that touch them maybe outside of Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or wherever, and find them on the sites that they're already on, whether that's music sites, whether it's news sites. That's what the our premium domain ad potential is what's going to allow you to reach them where they are, while also making your organic post to your social media platforms. And again, Brandy, I think you touched on it earlier, but that brand recall of people seeing that across many different kind of sites and platforms is going to be what keeps you in front of them and keeps them thinking about you, so that when that purchase decision is time to be made, you're still top of mind for them.
Exactly.
Big time. Yeah, I always install the pixels. Always use the links anytime you can. Put them in your Instagram bio. Put them in your YouTube description. I know some folks on this call are very diligent when it comes to putting these links into their YouTube description. They have for years, and these tremendous audiences. And I know that remarketing with Foundy is one of the ways that they're able to generate a ton of e-commerce sales, really all year, but right now in particular as well. And on top of that, capture emails. Really want to capture emails. You can do it a million different ways, but try to just make use every use that you can. We have an email capture modal for our power accounts. They are, for some record labels, Foundy is the number one source of a referring source for e-commerce revenue. And it's because they're putting their Shopify widgets into their Foundy landing pages and then putting those pages on Instagram bios. People are, if you're very diligent about this, then you can use every single opportunity to both drive an immediate sale on Shopify, to build your remarketing audience so you can run an advertising campaign when you need to, and to capture emails all throughout the year. You can still capture emails now, yeah, but you're a little late, So if you have something to sell, hopefully you can absolutely get the message out with advertising rapidly. But it would be good for you to start capturing emails so that you can use them in every season throughout the year.
Yeah, and to add to that, Jason, if you're going to be running campaigns to these remarketing audiences, or even to more of a prospecting cold audience, the great thing with the Foundy ad platform is you have each campaign you create, you have that conversion pixel that you can place within whatever that point of sale you're using is, so you can track the conversions on those campaigns, so literally seeing what that return on investment may be. So it's a lot easier to justify in your marketing planning to spend $5,000 on an ad campaign when you see the revenue that comes in off of that maybe is 2 or 3 times greater. And I think segmenting the audiences is smart too when you do start building those remarketing. And Brandy, I know you work in the platform quite a bit, so do you want to maybe chat about some of the custom audience build techniques and how that could be beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. So just kind of going back into what Jason was saying, anywhere that you can install the pixel, absolutely do it. Some of the differences, or not differences, but the way that we have the rules set up for the remarketing audiences is based on destination, location, and referral URL. So destination is going to be wherever they're at the moment. Location is wherever they're going to be going, and the referral URL is wherever they had come from. And so we actually have a way to.
You misspoke a little bit. Locations where they are at the moment. Destinations where they're going. Referrals where they came from, which is actually a perfect segue because somebody just asked about that. Can you build an audience of people that come from Facebook?
I was
Absolutely.
just going to say.
I'll let Brandy answer that.
Yeah, absolutely you can. So in that case, it would be someone who is coming from Facebook. So that would be the destination, correct?
That'd be the referring source. Yeah.
Excuse me. And yeah, so if you go ahead and just put in contains and then put in the UTM source for the audience criteria, then you can actually segment that audience out, and anybody who's ever been there before and has come into contact with the pixel, then it will go ahead and start parsing that audience out for you.
Yeah. We try to make that simple, but honestly, the terminology gets tough to remember. We do have a blog post about it, and also it's pretty unique because Foundy fire the pixel fires differently depending on where it's at. So if it's literally a short link that you've posted on Facebook and it points off to Amazon, you can literally set up this way: referring source contains Facebook. That's one way that you capture that audience that clicks on it. Or you can set up location contains found.ee / whatever the URL was. And that's the exact same audience. And then you can also do destination equals Amazon, or it contains Amazon. And that is also the same audience. So we make it, it's supposed to be incredibly easy. Like there's a bunch of different ways to capture it. But honestly, because there's so many different ways to capture it, you should probably reference our manual at any given time. Referring source, location, destination, all very important. But you can certainly capture the audiences from Instagram, Facebook, to wherever they're going. Use a short link if you're driving people from a place you don't own to a place you don't own. So if you don't own Facebook and you don't own Amazon, the Foundy in the middle is going to fire the pixel, and then you'd set up location contains. If you want to get more specific, because you share that link on multiple sources, referring sources, then you would say, referring source contains Facebook and location contains found.ee / my URL. And that would be this specific audience of these specific engagements. And I hope nobody took time to write that down because that's too much. But, there's definitely, Rebecca, you already put it in there. There's a blog post on it. It gets pretty, I don't want to say convoluted, but it's pretty easy to mix up. So definitely recommend referring to that as you're building your audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just in the chat there for anyone who didn't see it. But yeah, it can get pretty complicated. Is there a way in Foundy, let's say you're running a prospecting ad, so you're not remarketing to your audience, and you want to know the people who bought merch based off of that ad. Is there a way to set that up in the Foundy ad system?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think you're referring to that conversion pixel, right? So
right.
Like, yeah, if you just like any ad platform, traditionally, if you're going to be spending money on it, you want to see what that money is doing for you. And, depending on the objective of the campaign, there might be a different way. You may measure those results differently, right? And I think earlier Brandy mentioned a lot of times we're looking at CPM and how many people are seeing, what type of impressions and cost per 1,000 impressions we're getting. You might measure it off of the cost per click, but of course, if you're talking e-commerce merch campaigns, you're going to want to see if you're actually generating revenue off of those campaigns. So
right.
Those conversion pixels are just as important as the remarketing pixels are in that regard.
Absolutely.
You can also build an audience if you have your pixel on that page, on the conversion page or the thank you page or success page. You can also build an audience of people that have made it there. So these are the people that bought. And the way you'd use that is, one, maybe you don't remarket to those people now because they just bought yesterday or something. And two, remarket to them in like a month, and when you have that new thing on sale or the new sale, new discount or something like that.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I think sometimes to think about maybe that next remarketing tactic isn't necessarily asking for a sale, but it's a playlist or some type of something that is just, again, that brand recall that's keeping you in front of them without necessarily asking them to spend money on you. I feel like from a strategy perspective, that's a really something that we marketers, I know I'm guilty of it too, forget about that sometimes, just being in front of them without necessarily asking them to make a buying decision. There's a lot of value in that too.
We used to, and Tim's done this quite a bit as well. Before he was doing all advertising, he used to do like eCRM and social media and stuff like that. And we used to, it's a pretty super. It's a pretty simple formula. But we would want to give like 4 messages for every 1 request during a promotion of some sort. So like, here's new graphics, here's new music, here's a clip, here's a message from me, the artist directly. Now let me ask you to buy something, basically. And it really does help. It may not be 4-to-1, maybe it's 3-to-1, or you can do some testing and figure out what is the best for that. But whether you're using social media or email or advertising, it really is good to to treat fans like they're still fans, as well. So not just
I think
hammer people over the head.
Yeah, and another thing to add to that, Jason, I have people ask me frequently, folks that have been spending a lot of time running ads on social and then are now running ads on Foundy as well, and they're worried about impression or frequency of impressions to the same user. And the thing that I found, really cool and unique in the sense that if you think about what you're doing when you're running campaigns on Foundy is, the frequency may get up there, but you're touching them on different sites. So it's not all in this news feed or this social feed or whatever. You're not seeing the exact same thing on this exact same platform every time. They may be showing up on, the New York Times or website one day, and then the next day it's on Rolling Stone. So there's a lot of value in kind of off social marketing in that regard, because you can touch them with multiple touch points with similar and same creative, but it doesn't feel like you're bombarding them with it because they're on different places, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Foundy advertising has built-in optimizations. It's not trying to, beat people over the head with the message. There are, depending on which article you're reading, which study you're reading, there used to be this rule of 8. And now there's like a rule of 12 or 14 because our attention span is so bad, and because we're like overly bombarded with messages from a trillion different advertisers and people. But yeah, you actually reaching people one time is not that effective usually. You have to, whether it's advertising or social media, and preferably it's a combination of things. You're reaching them on anything owned, anything earned, and anything paid, basically. When you reach them across multiple mediums, that's generally where you're able to actually get them to either convert or choose to convert. Sometimes the choice is I'm not going to. But I mean, we all know it's not always. You're not selling everybody something or driving everybody to a stream or whatever it is. But yeah, it does take multiple touch points before many people choose to convert, actually.
That's a great point. I mean, I know personally it takes me like 3 or 4 Amazon ads for the same pants before I'm like, fine, I'm gonna buy them. It's destiny. Yeah, so I think that's a great point on getting your message out in front of people as often as possible. But I think we also want to reduce the friction in getting people to that goal at the end. We don't want to have multiple clicks going through. We all know that the more clicks you have, the more pages you have to visit to complete the action, the less likely it's going to happen for your audience. So Tim, can you speak to some ways that you could use Foundy ads to bring your content to a potential fan?
Yeah, totally. So as far as I know, Foundy is the only ad exchange currently that offers HTML5 interactive ads as a self-service option. What that means is, instead of the sort of static or GIF, display banners that you're usually able to run on other places like Google Ads, Foundy with the sort of HTML5 interactive ads capabilities, we have these ad units that you can embed interactive widgets inside. What those widgets are, they can be, Spotify Play widgets, they can be, Apple Music widgets, they can, even be a YouTube video. It's essentially an opportunity for someone to, to engage with your content without even leaving, the site that they're browsing. So, as a lot of you advertisers know, we see a lot of attrition in landing page views and actual click-throughs when we're asking fans to take an action, taking them off-site, right? So, if we're advertising on Facebook and we're telling fans to, stream a song on Spotify, once we ask fans to click and then they actually perform the action off of Facebook or off of whatever sort of paid social platform they're using, once that sort of click happens, the amount of people who actually end up streaming the content or actually engaging with it, decreases by quite a bit. But and this is just a function of sort of user behavior, right? As the platforms, things like Facebook and Instagram, and just publications across the web, they're designed to keep you reading, to keep you engaged, and so those actions drastically decrease when fans are clicking off of whatever they're reading, whatever they're browsing, whatever they're watching. So yeah, that's the sort of beauty of the HTML5 interactive ads within Foundy is it allows fans and interested users to go ahead and engage with the content without ever leaving the site. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but we see a really interesting uptick in ad engagement and video view engagement, in the sort of holiday period. We've been talking about how ad costs increase, during the holiday season, but video views actually improve from November to December as well, as a metric. If you measure for that, we see I think something like a 50 or 60% increase in advertising view rates from month to month, from November to December.
Do you have any idea why that is? And do you mean across like all channels, or you as far as you know?
Yeah. As far as we know, it's across all channels. As for why, there's a few reasons. The first is that users are more willing to engage with advertising during the holiday season, because they're in this sort of shopping mindset. They're a little bit more open to being advertised to. So that's just a little quirk in user behavior that we see in December. The other thing is that
one time when we're like laying on our backs, digesting food.
Just scrolling. Exactly. The other thing is that from November to December, this holiday season, this is typically when brands deploy their best creative. I think there's been some studies on when just the most budget is spent on creative, and it's typically sort of in the months leading up from November to December, as creative agencies, advertisers are really gearing up for the holiday season. So because of that, the content itself is stickier, the content itself is better, so video view time increases as well.
I can tell you that I've worked with some really, really great labels that have had just amazing, like e-com D2C teams. And around this time, a lot of times they'll spend money producing those sort of unboxing videos, like an artist to unbox the thing for the very first time, film it, turn that into like a 3-minute segment of some sort, and then do some cut downs and stuff like that. But yeah, fans are like, they're ecstatic about this sort of a thing. They love watching that type of content. They love seeing the sort of like the genuine sort of like excitement on an artist's face when they actually unbox like a really cool package that they have for sale. It's going to be very effective, and the watch times are tremendous on that sort of organic content as well. So I mean, if anybody's looking for a very specific video organic tactic, try those unboxing videos. Gotta fly to wherever your band is and videotape them unboxing that $100 package or something, and see what it does for yourselves.
Yeah. And I see a question here from Marina that says, does time spent watching increase too? And just to speak to that a little bit, so I know that Facebook, as of right now, if you're watching some of their video views or like their ads that they have running, it's about in 3 seconds it's volume off, and they're pretty much no longer engaged at that point, about 85% of the time, whereas Foundy is about 20 times more. So traditionally for like a DIY artist, when they have their content going out for video views, it's about 54 seconds, but if it's some of those more large kind of well-known household names or artists, most oftentimes they're watching entirely the full music video unit, or full video, full unboxing segment, 3 minutes or otherwise, that they've put as an ad unit for the HTML5 ads.
Yeah. So Tim, your numbers are mostly organic, or are your numbers mostly advertising? When you're
it's meant to be, I think, mostly advertising.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So with our numbers being generally much higher, it looks like we'll probably have even better engagement during holiday season.
Absolutely.
But it's up to everyone on here to make a good video.
Yeah. I don't know if we've seen it yet, Jason, but I was thinking, like, how cool would it be if you were on a, whatever website reading the articles that you read, and then you see an artist, like an HTML5 ad pop up with the artist unboxing that. Like, I can see where that's going to be super engaging, because it's not just a typical promo video or music video. It's something very different, but also kind of draws you into that,
It's personal.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. But I can imagine someone like Clay, who's on this right now, being willing to do something like that.
Yeah. So speaking of creative, we've got this question from Achana. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name here. So there's some questions about the creative content that might be explicit. And I think this is a really great question, especially for the music industry, when we are maybe pushing boundaries in a way that maybe a typical ad network might not be used to. So does anyone have any recommendations here on what you might do to keep your content able to be advertised, but also not compromise your artistic integrity?
I can tell you that unfortunately it's up to the publisher. There's not like any one. If you have what most people would consider explicit content, it's just not no one's really gonna let it fly, unfortunately. And there's auditors that are checking ad units. There's the exchanges. There's the publishers themselves. You can do cut downs. Probably do like a 30-second cut down that doesn't have explicit content in it. I imagine of a 3.5-minute video, not all 30 seconds, not every second of every 30-second, piece is entirely explicit. So maybe there's an opportunity there. But the other thing is wherever you drive people, whatever the destination is, that becomes part of what the auditors check as well. So, if you try to hide it, you do some like very sort of innocuous ad and you drive people to something explicit, the auditors usually find it and reject it there as well. So, yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, YouTube can be a tough one with that. I've had luck sometimes, and other times, just nothing flies, even for a tiny bit of profanity. It seems to be just up to the auditor and up to the algorithm whether or not they're gonna catch you, whether they're gonna flag. I have found that, yeah, as Jason was saying, the sort of clean clip sort of strategy works well, where the destination can be your actual video. And hopefully the auditors don't catch that, and the clean clip that you advertise with, that usually can get by. Setting I've found that your territories that you're targeting also affects it, as well as your age range. So there are some countries, for example, countries in Arabic speaking countries, where there's essentially a higher a higher threshold for what constitutes explicit content. So that affects it as well. Bumping up, making sure that when you're setting up YouTube ads, that the demographic that you're targeting is everybody 18 plus. That helps as well. And it's also the sort of format of the destination video itself is going to be affected. So if the first 30 seconds of your video has less explicit content or less profanity, generally you have a better shot of getting your ad approved, at least within YouTube, than if the video just starts right off the bat with explicit content. So
yeah, totally. And I think a lot of this is making yourself accessible to the audience you're going after. And if you're trying to reach a general audience, but there might be some things that would prevent that general audience from engaging with you, having different versions, like maybe have a clean short form version you can send people to, get interested in the music, you're going to have a better ad, more successful run, and you'll be reaching an audience you might actually want to reach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. This is all great. I think that we have a few minutes for any more questions that people might have in the chat. For us, we've got lots of experts here, so please feel free to throw anything in there, even if it's not necessarily a holiday campaign related, but anything maybe starting in January or so. See if we get any other.
While we're waiting on those questions, one other thing I don't think we've talked about is New Year's Eve. I know we're still kind of coming out of like live event stuff. We're not quite fully back to the old days of just going crazy with parties, I guess, and shows. But I think there's a lot of people vying for eyeballs and for ticket sales too. So now's a good time, if you get ahead of the holiday mix and the holiday buzz, to really start putting together and talking about what's happening or what maybe you're involved with around New Year's Eve as well, if you're involved in anything at all.
Yeah, totally. To add to that, I think we tend to compartmentalize, I guess like holiday time in our head where, for example, people don't want to be advertising Christmas stuff or New Year's Eve stuff before Thanksgiving. But, the fact of the matter is that our with the uptick in cost per click and CPM from Black Friday onwards, the months right before December, so now essentially is when we see some of the lowest CPCs and some of the highest click-through rates, of the entire year. I think from September to November, cost per click is something like 60% lower than the rest of the year, and click-through rate is like 40% higher. So again, it's a good opportunity. It's to take advantage of this trend. You want to get your ads up as soon as possible. And there's a lot of reasons for this sort of trend in behavior. Again, it's the sort of the best advertisers and brands saving their best creative for the end of the year. So a lot of them aren't deploying, and there's less competition in the months right before December. So again, get those ads out there as soon as you can.
We have a great question from Nikki. Is the Foundy platform more user-friendly than using Facebook Ad Manager to place ads for a beginner? Facebook ads is overwhelming. Agreed, Nikki. Very much.
I'm biased for a lot of reasons, of course, but honestly, I've been placing self-serve Facebook ads since self-serve became possible with Facebook. And it changes so frequently. Every time I log in for whatever reason, I'm completely overwhelmed. But I would love to hear Tim's response, because Tim has been running an agency's media buying and digital marketing now for the last couple of years. He's got about 10 years experience in media buying, has not really done a whole lot of Foundy. And when he came over, he's still doing running advertising across multi-channel strategies are always best. But I've seen now him in action since he started about a month ago. And Tim, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Facebook simplicity versus Foundy simplicity.
Yeah, Nikki, it's very easy to set up. It's very much guided. I think that there's just enough customization in there where if you're a power user, you can definitely figure out the sort of best ways that you like to run things. But Foundy is really meant to be very easy to set up. We have a very wide, user base on our platform, from, professional digital marketers to a lot of, DIY artists who are self-releasing, who are just looking to set up some ads. And so it's really meant to cater to, both sets of audiences. But yeah, it is very user-friendly, much, a lot less settings to configure. The main things that you need to just consider are, your sort of audience, your targeting, whether or not you want your creative, whether or not you want to, maximize the clicks on your ads, or you want to create awareness amongst, on premium websites, amongst your target audience. So, just with those few questions answered, which you should have a sort of a good intuition as to, how you want to approach your marketing. It's very, very easy.
I will also say that Tim and I struggled for 30 minutes on Facebook trying to figure out the audiences for something pretty specific. And during that time, I think we cursed Facebook about 1 million times. After that, Tim went into Facebook and set up an audience in went into Foundy and set up an audience in like 14 seconds. And he's like, oh my God, this is so much easier. So anyways, I just wanted to put him on spotlight.
Yeah. And Nikki, don't feel bad about Facebook ads being overwhelming. I mean, I always tell clients, I do this for a living. I'm on Facebook ads every day, and it still manages to confuse the heck out of me. It's all the UI changes, all the time. It's them constantly, tweaking, everything from the layout to the algorithm. So yeah, don't feel bad about being overwhelmed. And that's essentially why we've built Foundy the way that it's built, to sort of combat that.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Nikki says, I've lost a lot of time that I could have been writing and creating music, just learning digital marketing on Facebook and Instagram. Agreed. Yes. I can speak to my own experience that I took I believe it was about a 3-month course on digital marketing where we dug in most of the time on Facebook ads. And I don't think I could set one up in a way that I would feel confident with. So yeah, don't feel bad at all. I do want to back up a little bit. So Taylor, you were talking about these New Year's Eve events, which is great, or any kind of event that you have coming up. So I know we have an exciting new feature that we are going to be launching on Foundy very shortly. So for those of you that use our Foundy landing pages, we shortly we'll announce it. If you get our marketing emails, we'll send you an email. We'll also put a blog post and post in the app about these things. But you can we'll be able to generate a QR code for your page. So Taylor, I know that you have done so much stuff in the event space. How would you suggest that people use these QR codes for their event or show or whatever they've got going on?
That's a great question. I think, it varies depending upon kind of the objective, I guess. I think one way would be certainly have whatever the QR code is pointing to being a Foundy link from a remarketing perspective and just driving that data. I think something that, depending on the nature of the business and especially around the holidays, what type of, inventory you have, coming, say, for example, New Year's Eve specifically, you're coming right out of the Christmas season. So maybe you don't have quite as much product or merchandise on you for those New Year's Eve shows because you just haven't been able to resupply that inventory. A great thing is to have a landing page with something that people can, take a quick thing with their phone. It goes right to a landing page. They can go ahead and pre-order something that maybe is out of stock or, on back order. There's numerous ways. I think it just depends on really how you're applying it. If it's an in-person kind of component, that would be one way. Even, we have the social unlock features on landing pages as well. Maybe that's a special giveaway if you're trying to build up your email list and you don't want the old fashioned way of having a list that somebody writes, especially in the day of COVID, and you don't want 1,800 people picking up a pen and writing on a pad of paper. Just having a QR code that drives traffic to a landing page with an email capture and maybe has a special unlock for them if they do that. But mainly, I think the most important thing I would say is keeping it tied back again to that Foundy platform, which if you're going to be creating a QR code from Foundy, you're probably doing that already. But, utilizing those resources to continue building out that remarketing strategy for whatever it is down the road, whether it's live, tour, marketing, merchandise, or the next release.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, I've seen these become a lot more popular in the last several years, of course. They go into posters, they go into snipe campaigns, they go into billboards these days. I remember trying to do billboards 12 years ago with QR codes, and nobody knew what the hell they were. And now people are putting them into billboards again. And you see them when festivals and concerts are resume. You'll see them on premises, and some people use them to drive people to a Foundy page where you can get a discount code for the merch there, or to capture an email, as you said, directly after the end of the tour. Send everybody that you captured an offer for maybe some tour merch or something because they couldn't get it that night, and you can definitely sell people merchandise from that.
I haven't seen this yet, but I was thinking about this last week actually, or it may have been earlier this week when we were talking about QR codes. From a tour campaign perspective, what if you created a piece of merch that was literally only available after the fact? So all these people, you sell your merch on site, but this is a very unique, tour posters is what come to mind. A lot of bands that I follow have very specific show posters that are limited run editions. But if you had something that was created that basically that's where you could use this QR code, and that's the only way to get access to this, it's just, again, being creative that gives the consumer something a little bit different to latch onto, but also creates that value and that stickiness of the brand as well.
That's really cool idea.
That's an awesome idea. I know personally I've been to shows where merch was sold out, and if the band had sent me an email that was like, this is back in stock, I would have bought it immediately. Masks come to mind. Before COVID, I went to go see a band that had a really cool mask, just like we wear now, and and it was sold out. And if I would have bought 1 million, they would have made so much money off of me by being able to remarket. So I love the idea of not only building your audience digitally on a digital platform, but being able to actually take your physical audience and be able to reach them again through remarketing. I just want to say thank you, everyone. We are about at time. These are great questions, great answers. Thank you to the panel. If there is, if anyone has any other questions, anything that you need, please feel free to reach out to the Foundy team. We're here, explore the platform. If you're like, this is really cool, but I wish it did this, we always love to hear that. So very much appreciate it. Good luck on all of your holiday campaigns, and hopefully we'll hear from you on how they went.
Take care, everyone.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Rebecca. Bye.